Why are we here? Why are we learning them?
To learn and read.
To learn to read, that's right.
I'm Jeff Gruen. I'm the principal investigator of the Haven Lexinome Project. I'm professor of pediatrics and genetics here at the Yale Medical School. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you, as well as the Manton Foundation, for your continued support.
First, we're going to peel off non at the beginning of the word. Now look at this. It says shoal. Shoal. What does it say?
Shoal.
So I'm going to peel off
Shoal.
shoal. My root is so. My whole word is non-social. What's the whole word? Non-social. That means, you don't like to talk. Opposite of us.
The Haven Lexinome Project, I think, is a really sort of special thing, and it's just been a privilege to be able to work on it from the very beginning. Our overall mission here is really to empower children of all stripes to be successful learners, and that's really the whole thing. As simply put as I can do it. Within that, we've had three goals. The first goal was to be able to identify kids early, really pre-symptomatically. And that's not such an easy thing to do, because the standard approach is to wait until kids are in trouble in school. And by then they're already failing. And then their self-perception, how they see themselves, really gets denigrated, and they have a poor self-image. And then it becomes sort of a self-defeating circuitous problem. It's like they know they can't do the work, so then when they're challenged with the work, then they're going to fail and they sort of give up. And so in order to bypass that, if we can identify the kids really early, and implement some sort of very intense or very workable or useful intervention, then I think what we can now is set them up to be lifelong successful learners. And I think that's incredibly important. Using standard psychological assessments, as well as reading and language assessments, as well as imaging, both structural and functional. We're actually looking at executive function, we're looking at mathematics, we're even looking at a little rhythm, some music, and we're seeing how these kids do over a long period of time. We're looking for sustainability. And so here we're asking the question, can we optimize our intervention so we get the most likelihood of success in the long term, not just the short term, but for years after the intervention's over. And that's really what the Lexinome Project's all about.
I work on the MRI side of things. I look at the brain and functional, what we call networks, so different parts of the brain that work together to help children read. And we actually look at how that changes over the course of instruction when children undergo the program, and we can actually see dynamically what's happening in the brain and the pathways that they're using for reading and how that changes over time.
My hope is then to take the information that we gain from these gene-behavior relationships and not only be able to predict the reading outcome of the child, but then also use it to determine if a child is at risk for developing reading problems early on, and then also developing targeted behavioral and pharmacological interventions that are specific to the neurobiological and genetic profile of that particular child.
I focus primarily on sequence analysis. As part of the Lexinome Project, we're doing a technique called whole genome sequencing, and that's where we take a spit sample from one of the subjects in the study, and we sequence the entirety of their genome. And this is kind of a new thing that's come about just because they've had a lot of new technology come around now, which makes this a viable approach. Where we get to essentially collect the entirety of their genome rather than individual positions throughout. So we're collecting 3 billion base pairs of DNA from each subject, instead of a few 100,000.
It's a rare type of project that really spans work in the community, helping children who are in some cases disadvantaged and giving them access to this wonderful program that really works and really makes a change. But at the same time also balancing that with science. It's very rigorous, and that can really help drive how we think about reading and how we think about genetics and what we can actually do with that type of information to help actually drive forward what's happening in the classroom.
I think it drives home the importance of genetics in learning and where learning comes from and how important it is between the genome of an individual person and their interaction with their environment.
Yeah, so one of the most amazing things when we look at sort of rough preliminary data is looking at the achievement gap between the kids who were at high risk, who got our intervention, and the general population within schools.
Every child that I have directly worked with is a breakthrough success story, truly. We have been able to either teach children to read or identify something that's going on with them and get them the help that they've needed through the data that we've collected through the program. See any spelling patterns you recognize? No? Alright, we'll feel awfully at the...
And frequent.
You want to sound it out or you want to go to rhyming? What do you want to do? Sound it out? Okay. Frequent. The root is frequent. The whole word is?
Frequently.
Are you guys serious? Frequently. Look at this word you just read.
Of course, when you speak to their parents and you speak to their teachers, they are absolutely delighted. And the kids themselves, their whole, self-esteem has just gone off the roof. And I think this is so far our biggest impact that we've had. And it's nice to see in real time. Our research is going to take several years to translate, but to see this on a real time that teachers can see, principals can see, and the parents can see, I think is incredibly important.
He engaged more in his own work. When come on to the reading part, he's engaged more. He wanted to do it by himself. Now I used to help him, but now he wanted to do it by himself. Say, Mommy, I got it. Miss A teach me how to put the words together.
The best part is actually giving and the most amazing instruction and the most amazing programs to these kids so that they can learn to read and be successful in life. So they can survive, They've all learned to read. Every one of them.
The most gratifying part about my work is really seeing these kids who had almost no reading skills at all before they came into our program leave with an ability to sound words out, to read at a fluent level. Really just the amount of growth that's happening for these kids who never would have gotten such an interpersonal intervention on such a microscopic level is really just life-changing for me.
Say it again.
Prop.
Awesome! Wow! Nice job, Jax!
I mean, watching the kids' faces light up when they can read a word is just miraculous.
I thought it was very important that it be universally applicable. In other words, we're not in a lab school. We're in the regular New Haven public schools, regular kids. It's reflective of the entire nation, so that whatever we find, we can roll it to be universally, can be translated throughout the country.
I would just really like to thank them for supporting this work.
Oftentimes reading problems are very common and they are very damaging to these subjects' lifelong prospects. And so having an organization that is willing to fund reading studies is also very important.
I just want to say thank you. I've always been struck by Julia's enthusiasm and interest and thoughtfulness around our research and her commitment to underserved populations. And so I just want to say thank you to her.
Thank you. It makes me emotional because these kids struggle all the time and their life is not fun. And if you can't read, you're just that much further behind.
Thank them so much because this work is very important, especially with the population that we're serving here in New Haven.
It's been the grad study, New Haven Lexinome Project. Julia, it's been incredible all the way from the beginning. You've been incredibly supportive, and we couldn't do any of this without your help and the help from the family. So thank you very, very much.
So you have given them a gift. They have given them a gift that is just irreplaceable, and it's amazing to be a part of this.
Thank you, Mentor Foundation.